In the 80s and 90s, Ween was a busy band. Far from the years-long droughts we'd become accustomed to, if you were a Ween fan in New Hope in 1989, you were sure to be drowning in new material, likely handed to you by none other than Dean Ween himself. Ween's work ethic was so strong that they weren't content to only put out their own studio albums, but also to collaborate with other indie bands. I want to talk about 3 of those crossovers today. The Ween Smersh split cassette, compilation EP Teriyaki Asthma Volume 8, and the eponymous album from the Ween Boredoms fusion band, Z-Rock Hawaii. Prepare yourself, things are about to get brown. By 1986, Ween had released Mrs. Slack, Kim Tullio, and a whole host of random cassettes named after people they knew. Down the line were Erica Peterson's Flaming Crib Death, and the crucial Squeegee Lip. But first, there was Ween Smersh, a collab with New Jersey lo-fi band Smersh. More on them later. Ween Smersh was released by Dean's indie label, Yuck Cassettes, in 1986, with a limited release of 25 tapes. And first on the track list is Ween's contribution, Fred.
And so, Wendy Fredericks was in fact pregnant with a little embryo known as Fred.
Fred is a spoken word garage rock track with clearly improvised lyrics by Gene. Over the course of the epic tale, profound topics like abortion, childhood development, and mental illness are treated with the level of respect you would expect from the 16-year-old Gene and Dean Ween. Very literary. On the songwriting side, Fred is actually best case scenario for 80s Ween. It's not pure noise, there's actually some space in there, the vocals are clear and largely understandable, and for the most part, Dean keeps the whole thing moving at a good pace instrumentally. Honestly, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, it bears some resemblance to the Velvet Underground's Sister Ray, being a long, sprawling noise track about the times and tribulations of an abnormal character. That said, Fred is over 23 minutes, and it sure feels like it. It's not an Echoes or Diamond Sea situation where the songwriting is so masterful that the time flies by, or even a krautrock type deal where it lulls you into a hypnotic state. Fred feels like being put in timeout. And I love it for that. Shout out to Joppa on Ween Wiki for transcribing all of the lyrics to Fred, which I'm sure was a Herculean task akin to translating Beowulf or something. Next is Edgar, Smersh's composition. For the first minute of the song, we're treated to delay-soaked a cappella vocals before a rockin' drum machine beat begins, and we get a taste of Smersh's synth-fueled, sample-delic sound. There are actually some really cool moments throughout Edgar. It sort of reminds me of Skinny Puppy, or maybe what you'd expect from an unpolished demo from the Avalanches. Edgar is definitely better produced than Fred. That said, I was far less invested in the life of Edgar as a character than I was for Fred, for whatever that's worth. For as hardworking as they seem, with 21 compilations, 9 EPs, 29 albums, and 7 singles, it kind of feels like Smersh turned out nothing but, let's say, low virtuosity, industrial and lo-fi synths over their 19 years of existence. It's like they never grew out of their own Mrs. Slack era. Cool album covers though. Teriyaki Asthma was a series of compilation EPs released by Seattle indie label CZ Records. Some bands featured on the series include Babes in Toyland, Agent Orange, Superchunk, L7, and even Nirvana. Legendary DJ John Peel brought some notoriety to the series when he played several of the EPs on his show, despite finding the name of the series detestable. And one of the 4 artists featured on Volume 8 is, you guessed it, Ween. Unfortunately, the project proper isn't available online anywhere as far as I can tell, but 2 of the non-Ween tracks were uploaded by JTT Music, and Long-Legged Sally Was a No-Neck Tour can be found many places online. I'll link a playlist below so you can hear those 3 songs for yourself. I couldn't find the MX80 track Surfin' Pope X anywhere, but if MX80 is the same band as MX80 Sound, they're a pretty cool noise and post-punk band that's worth checking out. Out of the Tunnel is a blistering, maybe even a little grating, post-punk record with great attitude, though I do think you'd be better off listening to Para Ubu or Swell Mats. The first track, Drawing Lessons by Tree People, is a sort of cool, if forgettable, garage punk track. Eyesore by Dose might actually be the best song on the project. It kind of feels like a later Husker Du track, like something off Candy Apple Grey. Honestly, I'm a big fan and will definitely be on the lookout for more Dose. A higher dose of Dose, if you will. Sorry. Then there's Long-Legged Sally with a no-neck tour, a very brown Ween track. Jeaner's vocals have a pretty cool flange effect on them, almost sounding like glitch pop at times, and the bass and drum machine are that classic pure guava fare. There's also a pretty cool psychedelic guitar line that enters about halfway through the song. The highlight of the song is the funky key change at the end with a sort of pseudo guitar solo. Overall, not my favorite pod or pure guava outtake, but a fun one for sure. It kind of fills the niche that Stop, Look, Listen, and Learn did for the Chalk and Cheese era. So that's Teriyaki Asthma, Volume 8. A pretty cool little project, with a great album cover. And I'll definitely be checking out the other Teriyaki Asthma EPs. Next, we have the main event, 1996's Z-Rock Hawaii. But first, a little history lesson. Boredoms are an experimental rock band from Osaka, Japan, which formed in 1986, just 2 years after Ween. They've had a storied history worthy of its own video, but I would highly recommend checking their discography out. And if you do, start with Vision Creation New Sun. In October of 1992, Boredoms embarked on a tour of the US, starting with Browns Island in Richmond, which is a great venue, by the way, where I saw Geese and King Gizzard. This tour would last until November of '93, meaning the band spent over a year stateside, doing their thing, screaming their lungs out every night. Ween, meanwhile, had just signed with Elektra, and were transitioning from their Brown trilogy into the Chocolate and Cheese era. On June 3rd, 1993, de facto big brother of the band, Andrew Weiss, took Dean to a Boredom show. This show, in fact, at Khyber Pass Pub in Philly. Dean instantly became a fan, and saw them again later that week. According to Dean, at the time not a lot of people knew their music stateside, but the singer of the band, Yamatsuka Ai, had released a solo album full of samples of the pod, so we knew he was a fan. After meeting at these two shows, we arranged for him to come to our studio. We were working on Chocolate and Cheese in Pennington, New Jersey, and he stayed with me and my family for about a week. His English was minimal at best, and he spent the whole time at my house roughhousing with my border collie, Jimmy, which I loved. He couldn't get enough of Jimmy, throwing the ball, chasing the stick. It was incredible to see, and Jimmy loved it, being a border collie and all. Not being able to really communicate in the studio was an advantage. We tried anything and everything. He spent time inventing contraptions to sing through, like an Evian bottle as a megaphone taped to a snare head with the other side mic'd up with vibrating snares. Stuff like that. He was an animal on the microphone. One night, he and I were driving home at 3 a.m., and a deer jumped in front of my little Nissan. I totaled the car and the deer lay dead, steaming in the road. I was going crazy. I don't know if he had ever seen a deer in person, and I was laughing my butt off. It's pretty typical around here to run into deer, and I hated the car. Anyway, after he left, he went back to Japan, and the Boredoms wrote the second half of the album and mailed it over to us. We overdubbed our tracks, and that was that. I named the band Z-Rock Hawaii, which was the most perfect name in the world for the record. In the studio, it was just me, Aaron, and Andrew Weiss, and I think Claude may have played some of the drums on there too, actually. On September 6, 1996, Z-Rock Hawaii's eponymous album was released on indie label Nip Guitar. The album begins with Chuggin, which features Muzak-esque verses that give way to a heavier, garage rock instrumental hook. Oh, and I is screaming his lungs out over the entire track. The Dean Ween group has actually played this one live a whopping 12 times. Just, without the screaming. Next is Bad to the Bone, a thoroughly brown cover of George Thorogood's '82 blues rock smash hit. And while this version is probably not going to go gold anytime soon, it is a ton of fun. Track 3 is In the Garden, which after a 50-second noise interlude becomes a Middle Eastern flavored crooner track about a garden with all kinds of things in it.
And lepers with the peckers, jewels with tools, and the muffins with stuffings.
The vocals on In the Garden remind me of the character Gene embodied on Take Me Away. It definitely seems like he was getting more comfortable with his baritone vocals around this era. Next is Love Like Cement, a blistering noise rock track, akin to something that Moist Boys would make. And after all, this was recorded around the time that Moist Boys 1 came out. The lyrics are seductive, almost Prince-like, and delivered through a smug vocal fry. Though to be honest with you, the indiscernible screaming on the hook is starting to get a little grating at this point in the track list. Though thankfully, the first part of the album is decidedly noisier than the back half, which features a few more melodious tracks like I Get a Little Taste of You and The Meadow. But next there's Tookus, a noise pop track which is somewhere between the Beatles' Wild Honey Pie and The Circle of Life from the Lion King soundtrack. The ad-libs from Gene are absolutely hysterical. There's something undeniably funny about what sounds like a Midwestern dad meagerly complimenting his wife's Tookus.
You've got a nice Tookus.
Love Like Cement reminded me of Moist Boys, but Pile Driver just straight up sounds exactly like a Moist Boys track. If you told me this came from Moist Boys 2, I would believe you without question. Dean is absolutely channeling Guy Heller on this one, vocally. It's a ferocious performance, second only to his vocals on Long Night from Quebec in my opinion. The guitar tones are also dialed into a sublime degree here. Definitely a highlight. Next is I Get a Little Taste of You, a jaunty little ballad, again sung by Dean, akin to something like Pandy Fackler or Love.
Get a little taste of you. Sometimes I feel so good, sometimes I feel so bad.
This one actually got a music video, featuring the Ween boys having a gay old time, out and about in the tri-state area, while I gets his freak on under a psychedelic spotlight. Taste of You became a fan favorite deep cut, and has been played 63 times live, which is a huge number for a Z-Rock Hawaii track. Though live, vocal duties are usually handled by Gene, freeing Dean up to play the guitar part. God in My Bed is a synth-driven spoken word track that sounds ripped right off Pure Guava. The lyrics feel like the flow of consciousness babbling of a crazy Stephen King character or something. This is a pretty fun one, and the vocals remind me of the guy at the end of Rush's 2112.
You want my chicken? My potato salad? You want me to tell you how my day was? Well, God was on my bed when I got home. That's how my day was.
The Meadow is a monumental 7.5-minute noise prog track, with Eastern instrumentation and references abound to mythical Ween character Eddie Dingle.
I hear it breaking through the sticks. It's the dingle, and it's barking, buzzers oozing from its lips.
In my opinion, this is the centerpiece of the entire album. The perfect blend of melody and noise, silliness and sincerity. That verse melody from Gene gets stuck in my head every time I give this album a spin. If you listen to nothing else from this project, check out The Meadow. Sunset Over Osaka is a gorgeous guitar-driven instrumental track, with I doing his best seagull impression over the top. If you like A Tear for Eddie, you'll absolutely dig this one. Sunset Over Osaka feels like calm before the storm. And then the storm. Finally, Hexagon, a 5-minute noise collage that feels like I and Dean playing a practical joke on you for listening this far. This is beyond musique concrète. This is audiophonic anarchy. Also included on the Japanese CD for Z-Rock Hawaii was a little flashlight game, the Z-Rap. By popping bubbles on the bubble wrap with your mouse, you can hear some snippets of outtake tracks, or a clip of Diener's vocals from I Get a Little Taste of You. Strung together back to back, all of the snippets equal out to be about 4.5 minutes of runtime total, mostly being blasts of noise-ridden instrumentals. But all in all, a pretty neat little bonus. I wish more albums did this kind of thing. In summation, I like Z-Rock Hawaii. It's not Ween or Boredom's best songwriting, but it is a lot of fun. It was recorded during the band's respective Brown eras, but by '96, Ween was working on the Mollusk, and Boredoms had been moving towards their Super Ah and New Sun sound. Z-Rock feels like a weird relic, the last gasp of that lo-fi, noisy brown before everyone, except Smersh, moved on to bigger and better things. And I'm glad we have it, I just wish it was officially on streaming. I'll link a playlist with a high-quality rip of the album below so you can listen for yourself, if you haven't already. Some definite standouts for me are In the Garden, The Meadow, and Sunset Over Osaka, which are strong enough to stand alongside anything on Pure Guava or Boredoms' Pop Tatari. As of 2001, there were talks of another Boredoms Ween collaboration, this time with drummer Yoshimi, with Exclaim magazine writing, "Word spreads that I and Yoshimi have recently cut a second Z-Rock Hawaii album with Ween from Mike Patton's Ipecac label, a project that is yet to see release." However, unfortunately, this would never come to fruition. These 3 projects really serve as a reminder of just how active Ween was in this era. In the 90s, among other things, Ween dropped 6 studio albums, a live album, a compilation, 5 EPs, 10 singles, and of course, 2 of the 3 collaboration albums we talked about today. And there's even more than that. In the future, I'd love to do a video about the times Ween featured on other people's work, like Queens of the Stone Age, Co-Stars, and Yoko Ono. Ween fans had an embarrassment of riches in this era and didn't even know it. But for now, I'll leave you with a few questions. What's your favorite track from Z-Rock Hawaii? Are you interested in listening to Teriyaki Asthma after this? And finally, can you sit through the entirety of Ween/Smersh? Alright, that's it for today. Stay brown.